Hi, guys. This week on the podcast, we're going to be talking to an entrepreneur about Canadian music and some classic rock and some other great products like the VinylBLOX. We're going to be talking to its creator, Nick Densmore. Let's get into it. Hi, guys. Randy here from the Vinyljunkie podcast. And this week on the show, we have Nick Densmore, who is the founder of VinylBLOX, on the show. Welcome, Nick. How are you?
Hey guys, I'm great. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. We're summer or spring's kind of kicking off, and the weather's getting nice, so that's really good.
Yeah, it's awesome. I was in at one of my shops this week and they were like, it's so great that we're through record store day and now we just have to deal with Taylor Swift stuff.
Well, it seems like Taylor Swift Day is every day at the record shops. It
It's
seems.
wild the ripple effect of like somebody like that, like a character can create such infrastructure for so many businesses to like thrive off of that isn't necessarily just like record sales or concert tickets or t-shirts, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, the whole music industry and just kind of the this booming sense of getting this merch, whether you're listening to it or not, is quite quite amazing these days.
It's wild how like again, but it's not to be Taylor Swift, but it's hard to be an artist out there. I think right now I think it's a lot of like you can't rely on money from digital streaming, so anywhere where anyone can kind of reclaim some extra value as an artist is probably what they're going to do because they have kind of been forced to do that. So obviously, it's why this whole medium can still exist and be really a major part of their target demographic for selling music.
Mhm. Now, before we get to your bread and butter, the vinyl blocks, I want to kind of dig into um, a bit of your origin story, as I like to say. So you were kind of like um, raised in small town Toronto, oh, small town Ontario, Elmira, just
Yeah,
outside of
yeah, I'm from
Toronto.
Elmira. Yeah, small town just north of Kitchener Waterloo. Known for I don't know what you want to say. We're known. We have the Guinness Book of World Records world record for the largest single day maple syrup festival. Fun fact. And this is the
Okay.
first year that I've missed the maple syrup festival. I'm 34 years old, and I don't kid you that I have been to every single one up until this year. So I broke a 33-year streak missing that just stellar small town event.
Yeah.
But yeah, small town Elmira, just north of Waterloo, outside of St. Jacobs, if people know the area.
Okay.
That's kind
Yep.
of like the tourist trap nearby. So yeah.
So what happens at the Maple Festival?
Maple syrup
Is
festival
there
is
live
just
music and stuff like that there,
it's
or
kind of like it's kind of like a weird we always treat it kind of like a it's like a high school reunion. You can't really count on seeing your old pals from like high school necessarily at holidays like Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever people go home for. But you can without a doubt count on seeing them at the Maple Syrup Festival. So it's an event that's in like late March, early April. It's outside. It's when
so it's kind of like springtime homecoming for.
Yeah, it's like when you harvest the like maple syrup from
Mhm.
maple trees. So like that's the whole thing. It's not like there's not a lot of live music, but the Legion in town gets really busy because that's the only place you can get a beer after 8 o'clock. Is the Legion. So yeah, the old ladies at the Legion, the old bartenders at the Legion get real fired up for that one night a year when they're over. They're just so busy. They're having a tough time, but. Yeah, Elmira Maple Syrup Festival. It's not a lot. It's a lot of eating, a lot of drinking, a lot of like catching up with old friends, and it's the first time I missed it. But yeah,
So what growing up there, where did you get your sense or your love of music from? Like, was there a lot of music being played at home, or was
yeah.
it like,
So I think that like again, small town, not a lot to do. So I didn't really realize until I kind of moved to the city how weird this was. But like everybody played an instrument where I came from.
oh
Like
wow,
because again, again, there wasn't really much. You either played on the hockey team, which I did as well, but you either played on the hockey team or you played an instrument, and that's kind of what you filled your time with. So my mother was a music teacher, so I just kind of grew up learning everything that I could get my hands on. Um, and then yeah, I mean, I guess this is the segue into records and stuff. I got kind of passed on my mother's old Zenith. I don't remember the model number, but an old Zenith record player that she touted as the first record player, at least probably mass produced, that had like a cassette deck built in, and
oh
also
yeah,
had like an auto drop on the needle. So it was like this whole. She won it in a bet with her father, like a horse race. They were betting on a horse race when she was a kid, and my grandfather worked at racetracks. So like she, as a 16-year-old, was like, "I want this fancy new record player, and I bet you this horse is going to win." And he said, absolutely not, no chance. And he took the bet and he lost, and she won this record player. That got passed to me at a younger age, along with like all of their, mom and dad's old records. It still exists at the house where I grew up to this day. But that's kind of the origin story with music. I played in a lot of bands. Again, it was just a matter of like filling time at home, more so than anything.
what kind of records were in that initial stash?
Yeah, for sure. My dad and mom Ray. Well, it was a lot of like, there's a lot of like, 80s. It was a lot of, I would say like 80s commercial washed rock. So like there was a lot of Bruce Springsteen. There was a lot of Brian Adams. There was a lot of like, I don't know, at that time, like Aerosmith was big. There's a lot of that. Just the generic stuff. My dad had a real weird soft spot for Canadian female solo artists. So there's a lot of
Okay.
weird like there's like Sheryl Crow in there. There's like old Shania Twain. There's I don't know. It was just funny how he's like a bit of a macho dude, but he had like likes this like very specific niche of Canadian female artists.
That's amazing. So what were you listening to when you were like younger then?
Yeah, so I think again we all went through kind of a classic rock phase pretty young. Like I remember like working at the grocery store and saving all my money to buy tickets to see the Who at age 16, 17. So
Wow.
like the parents of the friend group would take turns driving, the small group of us into Toronto, the hour and a half drive into Toronto to go see, I saw the Who, I saw Eric Clapton at, I guess, 16, 17. I went and saw Rush. I've seen Pearl Jam at like all before I was 20. That was cool.
The
So it was all
classics.
very, sorry?
The classics.
Yeah, sure. Like I remember like being front row for a Deep Purple show when I was like 17 years old. And the funniest thing about all this was that we were all saving our money to go to these shows. And like again, back then, I think our the priciest ticket was, I think we paid like $250 to see the Who at Rogers Center, then or sorry, not Rogers Center, Scotiabank Arena, then Air Canada Center. And the funny thing about this was because you had like one of the parents tagging along, it wasn't enough to like save. Like you all had to pitch on a ticket for
For the
like
parent?
your friend's mom to come with
Yeah.
you. And like I remember really uncomfortably sitting beside my friend's mom, who was like the cool mom, at a Motley Crue concert at Cops Coliseum. And there was like, I just remember, I don't know if this is like exactly true, but in my memory there was like there were like women hanging from the ceiling, basically strippers. And I remember being like a 17-year-old boy sitting beside like the cool mom, being like really uncomfortable, just like with all that was going on. And also, she's just sitting there. But she was binoculars on Tommy Lee the whole time. Because I guess from like for that era, like Tommy Lee,
Yeah.
male sex symbol,
So
he's
she had
shirtless.
no idea what else was happening on this.
She doesn't see any of it. So I just remember that's like a one like iconic moment from my childhood was just being incredibly uncomfortable next to one of my best friend's moms at a Motley Crue show.
Well, it sounds like you had a lot of great early influences. You said you were playing in bands early on. Like, what kind of music were you guys playing? And
We were mostly doing like a lot
what
of
what do you play? Like, are
instrumental wise.
you
Yeah, sure. Well, I think so. I grew up. My mom was an elementary school music teacher, so um, I begrudged her for making me play piano because I thought that piano was not cool. I was not a cool kid, and I think I don't know. At least like where I grew up, it was all about like trying to be cool to get people that you thought were cute to like you and think you were cool. So like it was funny because I was always like, okay, piano's lame. I don't want to play piano. Everybody's starting to play guitar. That's way cool. I need to play guitar so I can get a date. And so I remember looking into that and I was like, but then now there's so many guitar players. Everybody plays guitar, and I'm not going to get into a band if I play guitar because then everyone like there's too many. There's too many like too much competition. So I won't even end up in a band. And so I ended up playing drums because there was only two other
okay?
drummers in my high school, and I was like, that is going to get me in a band for sure. And so I played drums for a while. Mostly played that in bands. I sang in a few bands. And then I weird full circle moment. I picked up a lot of guitar in university and got a job playing at the local pub once a week. But then I came back when I after university moved back home. Um, I was just a single guy living back in Elmira, and unfortunately, like at that time, like everybody that didn't leave that town was already like married by the time I graduated university. So I was like the only single guy in town, and my apartment that I rented came with this old piano, and so it was one of those like full circle moments where I was like, oh man, like piano is cool. like chicks dig piano now. So I was like I was reteaching myself piano in my apartment. And so yeah, long answer, but basically I grew up playing anywhere between like 8 to 10 instruments, and then when I played in bands, it was a lot of like classic rock covers. So it kept me really busy as a drummer and keeping on top of stuff. So it helped me like I guess like learn through a lot of more technical stuff at a pretty young age, as opposed to playing like, standard 4/4 timing, Beatles grooves. We didn't really do a lot of that. So,
Yeah. Who would you say you drew a lot of your influences from, like musically? Then.
I mean, at that time, everyone was all about Zeppelin. Everyone was all about, like John, like as a percussionist, everyone was all about like John Bonham. I always thought like most maybe it's just a Canadian thing, but like I always thought Rush were cool. That was very like debatable, but I always thought that like Neil Peart was like fantastic. And there was this old story, and I don't know whether it's true, but it was that in between touring, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, the guitar player and the bass player for Rush, would write the album, and they would build like a computer machine to build the drum parts without Neil. Neil would be
Okay.
on a motorcycle trip. And so in between tours, Neil is on his motorcycle somewhere. Alex and Geddy are writing the next album, including Neil's parts. And then Neil would come back and he'd have to write the lyrics, and he'd also have to learn to play
The
the
drums.
like the drum part that had been like built on a computer, which is why generally Neil is regarded as one of the better drummers in the industry, because a lot of drumming is like fighting your inherent instincts and coordination, right? So if you can remove that and just build it on a computer, that's very easy. But then when it comes to like translating that to a live, obviously you need your drummer to play the part. And
Mhm.
so he had to get real good real quick. So I always looked at him as like a crazy, like machine drummer. And I saw Rush, and I've seen Rush a number of times. So yeah.
That's funny. I was actually on a friend's podcast a few weeks back, and we were talking about Canadian bands and whatnot, and and I admitted that Rush was definitely not one of my Canadian favorites.
They're
And
all over the place.
I can, I can appreciate their musician and their playing and like their, but Geddy Lee's voice just was
I just
not
think
for me.
I just think that at that time in my life, I don't listen to a ton of Rush now, but I think
Yeah.
that at that time in my life, like classic rock was the thing, and we were all trying to be as kids like the best at what we, the instruments that we played, and so you'd look up to people that maybe whether the songs were necessarily good or bad, you looked up at like people who are technically proficient at their instruments. And I think that like it's so funny because Rush is very like on the musical spectrum they're very diverse. There are
Hmm.
albums that are all over the place in terms of what like how they sound, the styles that they're putting out. But the interesting thing about that is that for a band that is so like musically diverse, they're also very polarizing. like people either dig Rush or they don't dig Rush, which is wild
Yep.
because Rush is such a weird, like huge spectrum of.
Well, the people that love Rush, like,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So I work in the beer industry as well, and people in Toronto may know Henderson Brewing, and they do a lot of work with Rush. They do Rush beers, and I didn't think like I saw it kind of adjacently just in the industry. And I remember like I think I interviewed and hired somebody who came from Henderson, and they were like, no, Rush days are nuts at Henderson. She's like, people fly in from like overseas just to come to Rush Day at Henderson. And it's like it's funny because not like it's just a brewery that has a beer that's named after the band, and people will fly from the UK just to come to Rush Day.
and like, does the band are they
They're not there.
there?
Nope.
They're not there. They're not playing or anything like that.
No, they're just it's just the beer. They do I think they do like exclusive merch and stuff, but it's like I, the Rush fans are nuts. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm in that pool, but I will say like Neil Peart was like one of my like really big drum influences earlier on.
What can we find in? Well, I see a few records behind you there. What kind of things can we find in your record collection these days?
Yeah, it's funny because like we have like I still have a lot of the old like I still have some of the records from bygone era passed on from mom and
Hmm.
dad, which are obviously as we talked about. But when I moved to Toronto, oh my gosh, 10 years ago or so now. I moved here for a job at a radio station because I had gone back to school, radio grad. I got a job at a radio station that everybody here in Toronto knows called Indie 88.
Hmm.
At that time, they had this cool mission where they were they were contractually obliged by the government to play an increased percentage of Canadian content and indie unsigned artists. So artists that are either unsigned or on independently owned and operated labels. Um, I thought that radio station was really cool because they
So
took
wait,
their
did they have to play more Canadian content than other
yeah.
radio
I mean
stations?
to make it real basic. Essentially, if you in Toronto, all the radio stations on the dial are taken. They're full. So when
Yep.
one goes up for sale or up for auction or whatever,
Yep.
um, you basically have to apply to the government to say, I want this signal. Um, and every other radio station is going to have to play 30% CanCon during like peak hours, so daytime hours.
Yep.
Indie 88 understood that they were going to be up against probably a handful of other pitches, basically, and they said we don't want to do 30%. We want to do more. We want to increase
Okay.
that, and then uh, we also will commit to a percentage of that being again local Canadian indie, so unsigned artist. or independent label artists.
Yep.
And so they took that pitch, which got them the station, and then turned it into a marketing machine, which was able to sell people on this idea of supporting your local indies, which is cool.
Hmm.
So I started working there, doing events and promotion stuff. So I basically spent my whole 5 days a week going to shows, like every venue in the city, any band that they would play, I've seen 100 times. And
Has
yeah,
it
I
been that
kind of,
long? Like that's around the time when I first met you. Has it? It was like that was 10 years ago now.
yeah, because I would have graduated.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's been 10 years. Yeah, and yeah, so back then, like for me, it was kind of like they were playing bands I was into, and I also saw buying records as more of a like direct way to support the artist. So like you don't find, and I'm not talking crap, but you won't find a lot of like any Taylor Swift in my collection, because it's like whether I like the new Taylor Swift album or not, it's like she doesn't need the money. Like I choose kind of to support the bands that like I'd like to directly support. So like I have my records that I know are good, and if I find them out, I find that as like a direct way to say, you know what, I really appreciate you as an artist, and because of that, like you're gonna get a better portion of this money than if I'm going to listen to your song for like 24 hours on Spotify. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So in my collection now, it's a lot of like indie alternative. It's a lot of, it does vary a little bit, but mostly kind of in that vein, indie alternative, a lot of Canadian influence. But yeah, mostly from that era of radio that I was kind of involved in. So,
That era. No, sorry.
well, yeah, I mean,
Taylor
I'm not,
Swift
I'm
reference
not,
there.
I'm not gonna dump on them, but you back then you wouldn't turn on Indie 88 and hear Wonderwall, and there are a number of reasons as to why that is, but we're not. It's a different story for a different day. But yeah, back then they were really really keen on supporting, and I kind of it was easy to kind of like buy into that, and I think listeners got that as well. It was easy for them to buy into that idea. So yeah.
So of these artists, who who would get your like if they put out a release, you'd be like, take my money right now.
Yeah,
Who?
so this kind of happened recently, not necessarily with a record, but with a show announcement. So, as you may or may not be aware of, Tokyo Police Club is doing their like farewell tour. Initially, it was one farewell show at History, which I mean I like as a venue, but it's really inconvenient to get to. Either way, me and my girlfriend from separate, like I was at work, she was at home. We both logged on for ticket time. And it felt like, at that time we were seeing like all the Eras tour sellout drama with all the youngsters all pissed off about Taylor Swift tickets that they couldn't get from Ticketmaster. And I will admit at that time I was like, oh my god, like suck it up. But then we had we had a similar problem, and we weren't able to get tickets to that one show. They since obviously expanded that to be a tour, a farewell tour. We got tickets to subsequent shows. So we're happy. But yeah, Tokyo Police Club are a cool band. They're now Toronto based. I have their whole discography, and I find them entertaining. I find them the like right blend of like interesting and like radio friendly,
Hmm.
because everyone loves a catchy song. There's plenty of studies on that.
And then, so where did you go from, you know, collecting vinyl to like deciding, oh, hey, I want to solve a problem and create a product that will solve that problem.
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny. It's a funny story. So I was working at Indie, and this isn't a knock on like Indie 88 at all. This is just the industry. Radio is not a well-paying industry. So I was kind of living in my shitty apartment, and I was like, just kind of hustling just to try to make ends meet and live in the city. Um, and I remember going back and forth to home over the holidays or something. And I had this idea because at that time I lived at Jarvis and Wellesley, and Indy 88 was located in Liberty Village. At that time, I
Hmm.
wasn't even like paying. to take transit. I was walking like every day to and from work. So like I had a lot of time to kind of think, and I've always been kind of a problem solver. And so I remember I like went home over holidays and I had these kind of like concept ideas. My dad has a little shop at home. I was literally at a friend of mine's brewery. He had built a brewery in St. Jacobs, and I was talking to him through these ideas. And I didn't have any money to buy like wood. Like I had no money to like procure material.
Hmm.
And so he was like, "Well, we have a bunch of pallets in the back. You can just take them if you want to." So that's how that whole idea kind of started. So I started making original VinylBLOX products out of reclaimed wood. Yes, and it was all basically pallet wood. And it honestly, the eco initiative is like a fun, cute thing to talk about, but it's like it really was more so the fact I didn't have money to like
Yep.
pay for wood.
But you
So
you had you had this skill already. Like you said, your dad had a shop back
yeah, yeah.
home.
So
So
my dad had a shop in Elmira, just like a garage shop. Like he didn't have his own separate place. It was more so just the tools that existed in the shop. Um, and yeah, so I
like,
remember like bringing
had you
back.
built stuff before building this, or you decided, oh hey, I'm gonna go at it and give it a go and try this for the first time in your dad's shop?
Yeah, that was kind of it. I was like, okay, I have this idea. I'm gonna try and I'm home for the weekend. I'm gonna make this happen. So I did. I built some initial like prototypes and stuff for what ended up becoming the solo, and but also there was a few other concepts back then. And I remember bringing them back to Toronto, and I had people in Toronto that were going to buy them. And I remember I was seeing a girl at the time who had started her own like jewelry business.
Yep.
And I was kind of like, she was in my like she was at my apartment or something one time, and she was like, "Those are really cool. What are those?" And I was like, explained, and she's like, "That's really awesome. Like, you should try to like, have you thought about like selling them?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have a few people that are going to buy these." And she was like, "No, like really selling them, like having a business with it." And I was like, "I don't know the first thing about like doing that." Like, and I don't know, like I can be creative. That's cute, but like I don't know the first thing about starting a business. And she says, "You know what? Neither did I. Like everyone's gonna figure it out at some point." And that was kind of the like, okay, well, like you always look at. I think everybody looks at something new that's like unfamiliar to them and thinks like is for whatever reason you're just afraid of the unknown. And so that was kind of the moment where it's like, oh my god, all these people that are running their own business don't necessarily need to didn't necessarily start because they knew exactly how to do it.
Well, yeah, they all started from a place of not knowing.
Well, and I think curiosity and like and creativity is where like entrepreneurs should want to live, right? Like I always say this about certain industries where it's easy to make a buck. Um, that's nice. If you have a lot of money and you want to start a business where you can make more money out of your already existing money, go ahead. But I think that some of the best businesses come out of people that like maybe don't necessarily have it handed to them, but um, get fired up about finding ways to game it and come up with solutions to problems that
It's
aren't
initiative,
necessarily
right?
conventional. Like you look at Spotify. I know it's like the anti-vinyl, but like I still use Spotify. I use it. It serves a purpose. But like you look at Spotify, and it's like nobody thought that was a good idea until somebody came around and really tried, like really had to push it, and now it's like Spotify is the number one streaming service in the world. And you know you would have listened to this guy who started Spotify, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and laughed at him if he tried to tell you what he was trying to build. You would have said, no, CDs are what's cool.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
yeah, I
it's
don't know. Long
and
answer.
I
That's
remember
how
the
it
first
started.
time I saw the vinyl blocks, the solo.
Mm.
It's like that is exactly what I need for my Instagram, like to kind of show off my
Yeah.
records and to show them off at home. And now, like if you kind of scroll through kind of a vinyl feed, there's all sorts of
Mhm.
stands now that didn't exist before, and like you were like really one of the first that
Yeah, I
that I
mean,
saw out there.
again, it's like all these things are like that kind of stuff wouldn't exist without demand for the medium. So, like, I think we were coming into a period at that point, and that would have been again probably 8 to 10 years ago, where like vinyl was having a bit of a resurgence, and it
Hmm.
became a little bit more popular with people outside of your dad who has a collection of 1,000 records in his basement. You know what I mean? Like it was becoming back more mainstream with more youth. Contrary to popular belief, everyone thinks that all the adults have the money and they control everything, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The youth control the economy. The youth control what they want to buy. They have disposable income, and they're going to be the ones who are going to carry the purchasing habits through. So I think that there's a lot of things that kind of had to line up for that. And yeah, sure, like um, now you scroll through Instagram and everybody has a solution for it. Um, you walk through Indigo, and Indigo has vinyl record storage and display stuff, and that's great. I mean, I think again, you're trying to find a solution to a problem, and you're trying to make it available to people on a grand scale so that they can have the problem solved. And if you can pocket a little bit of change off it, then then you got a business on your hands, right?
Yeah, for sure. Um, so you recently kind of released your newest line, which looks stunning. Let me say, um, so like this is the ambrosia maple. It's like
Mhm.
one solid piece, really beautiful.
Yep.
Um, Compared to this is
The old
great.
one.
This was great for the time, but
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
um, but your new line, like how many pieces? There's like several different products in this new line that you have. Do you want to
Yeah.
share some of those with us?
So I took a bit of a hiatus. I stopped working in radio. I started a full time gig in craft beer here in Toronto. And I straight up ran out of time. I ran out of resources. I moved, like I was back in the city. I didn't have access to a shop anymore. So that kind of just fell away. I worked away in beer, worked away on beer, worked away on beer. I got to a point where I had a pretty stable, steady income, and and again, then you start thinking of like, oh, what can I do with my time? Because we were going through COVID, and everybody had a lot of time. Um, and I don't like I like to fill it. So yeah, I started thinking on back to like, oh, could I do this? Could I bring this back? I found a local like shop share community, which is great. So I don't have to go out and spend $50,000 on all the equipment that I can do this kind of stuff on a grand scale with. I don't have to spend rent on a 2 to 3,000 square foot shop. I can rent it for a low monthly fee, so that helps. And I kind of started to think about how can I reposition things to keep up with, again, all, like as you mentioned, all the competitor that kind of comes up in the time that I had spent away from it. Um, and so one of the big things that I started with was that I want to make these things one of a kind, within standard parameters. So every solo that we have is the same exact size and dimensions and fit, but the emphasis is on the the unique nature of each piece. So the way I've pivoted away from the old butcher block reclaimed wood model into ethically sourced hardwood is because I wanted every piece to be different. Um, so now what happens is I work with local lumber suppliers that I can get wood sourced from around the world. So you've got one that's an ambrosia maple piece. That's a domestic hardwood, so it's North America. But if you look at something like this guy, like this is zebra wood. This is from West Africa. It's expensive, but it looks really cool. It's got a lot of character. And so with those, then I just do a clear coat on them. I don't do any stain polyurethane. I just do a clear tung oil coat, which preserves that like natural beauty and adds some durability factor as well. And then everything, I don't know if you can see the label, but everything is like hand numbered one of basically. So it's probably reverse on the camera, but everything's
Hmm.
numbered. The idea is that every piece is like as unique to the person as their collection. And that's kind of the
Right. So
model.
mine would be unit number. This was the 17th ambrosia maple
Solo,
that.
yes, 100%. Yep. So I go to all that painstaking effort of whittling my hands down to write every single no. But yeah, so that was kind of the vision, and I've slowly kind of been growing from the like initial solos, which I just brought back right away because they're easy to execute, to kind of then like satiating my creative head to like come up with other ways to utilize material and kind of cater to that the same like record niche. Um, I'm not. I know if you look up like on Amazon record storage or whatnot, record displays, you're going to get companies that make everything from record displays to kitchen cabinets to couches and furniture items. Like that's not where I'm coming from. I really want to like really niche myself in that one, um, the one kind of area, and I think that there's a lot of room to play in there. So
How many different wood options are there? With so
yeah,
we
so right
talked
now,
about.
right now, within the line of solos, which I don't know, these guys, the like tabletop displays. Um, I work with four different wood species, which give you a good like color spread. So you work with a like black walnut. You have this amazing like um, like deep red situation, which is it's Paduk, which is a another West African hardwood. So that covers off that. Then we have over here simple ambrosia maple, like really pale in color. Um, ambrosia maple is a really great, interesting wood because it is essentially just hard maple that's been infested by ambrosia beetles. So you get a lot of character with it from those beetles burrowing away. And then, of course, zebra wood here in the end. Those are kind of the four standard wood species that I deal with for anything that's in 2-inch thick stock, which would be these solos, these wall mount record rails. They all come in those four. Um, so yeah, and then as you get into like I'm doing little record brushes that come in uh, their simple 1-inch stock. So there's a
Mhm.
little more. I have a little more variety in terms of species with those because I can get a little more variety of like species access to. So yeah, long-winded
And
answer.
then what other products do you have? I know there's some bigger options for
Yeah, so
solos.
I was actually hoping I had some here today, but I just dropped. I had orders, so I literally dropped them all off. But if you look up on Instagram, we have. I'm doing the VinylBLOX case now, which is a really great like larger format. I'm not large, but it's a 20 to 30 record storage piece with plexiglass sides. So you kind of have wood wrapping around all three sides, and then you have plexi on the two faces, so you can see your whole collection as you slide things in and out. Those are
Yep.
just rolling now. They launched on Record Store Day, um, and and um, I'm putting final like creative touches on the concept for some larger format, like 200 piece, like 200 record storage pieces that I am really excited about. Again, it's a lot of like the creative work before you do the physical work, and then you can scream about it and tell people. But yeah, there will be in the coming months a larger format storage system for.
Was there also uh crates that you had, or was that
There
just
were
kind of.
there were there was crates for a brief second. Crates are funny because I really wanted to tackle the record crate. Um, the problem with crates is that I was dealing with third party CNC, so they were cutting out like the cutouts for them. There wasn't a lot of, I don't mean to make it all about money, but there wasn't a lot of money in them. I found that the price had to be at a certain price point,
Yeah.
and that didn't leave really anything for me to chew on in terms of profit. And so I kind of put them to the side for now, and it's there's something that the design is there. It's just about finding a way to do them on a larger scale. They were sold flat pack. They were assembled with a mallet. They stacked in all different ways. They were really, really cool. I was really excited for them. Again, it was just about the price to get them rolling.
So anyone who has a crate has kind of like a very limited
Yeah. Well,
piece
while
for
you're here
you.
too, I also want to talk about this because you're scrolling past it.
Yep.
This also
What?
launched on Record Store Day. We
Oh,
have
purple.
yeah, I did a collab with the Instagram channel, The Great Vinyl. There are two
Hmm.
girls up in Collingwood who just not to say just, but they're an Instagram vinyl channel. Um, and I wanted to kind of work with somebody local to do something more exclusive. So these are limited run. They're made from Purple Heart, which is a Brazilian, well, South American hardwood. It's known for being purple, which is kind of cool. So I thought like the grape vinyl, you know, Purple Heart, purple grapes,
Yep.
get it. And so we did, yeah, just honestly a limited number of those. Once they're gone, they're gone. They're at the same price as all other pieces. And there's a discount code running for the end till the end of the month. Call that is the Grape Vinyl. If you enter the Grape Vinyl at checkout on my store, you'll get 15% off. So
And that purple heart comes in the wall mount as well as the solo.
yeah. So I kind of crafted all those before I expanded the line. So yeah, it's just those two original pieces. I think there's like 15 to 20 of each of them, and that's about it. So once they're gone, they're gone. Yeah, there's the case.
Sweet.
Yeah, the cases are cool. The cases are pretty. People have been liking them, and at $85, it's a really great like small to medium sized storage solution. They're great for like I don't know whether you get this way, but like I do, where I have to pick a record to put on, and then in picking the record I'm going to put on, I flip past like 7 different records that I want to listen to, and
Yep.
I need to like set them aside, or else we'll forget. So like for people that have a little larger collections, these cases are a really great like option for just for that. But also it fills a need for the small collectors, right, who are just kind of getting into it and want to have something nice that sits on the table and displays their small but growing collection. So yeah.
Yeah, these look phenomenal, and I'm so sad that I didn't end up getting one of these uh,
Record brushes, yeah.
record brushes on record store day. So I'm gonna have to order one of those from you.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
sweet. They're like again, and a lot of I mean, this is like makes and it's not I'd say it's not sexy, but it's like part of me running this thing is also like I spend X amount of money on hardwood. Like I need to make wallflowers, I need to make solos in walnut, so I buy a bunch of 2-inch thick stock. The record brushes honestly just came more so out of a need to like use up like excess stock, right? Like like you can imagine, you have all these boards, you have a finite size, you have to like mill them down to get however many units you can get out of them, right? And then
oh yeah, and you're gonna have all this excess wood that you don't want to throw out, right? Like,
exactly, and because the material ends up because it is ethically sourced and it is like hardwood from around the world, it's not cheap, and so part of your business brain goes like, okay, well, how can we find a solution to that, right? Can I get more money out of this one piece of wood that I'm going to pitch the last remaining of it out anyway. So that's where that's where the little fuzz brushes come in, but also they're a great little like add-on purchase at your favorite record store. They're really cost low barrier entry for cost. They're $15, and they look pretty. They're not too cumbersome. They're they're the perfect width for your record, which is nice. Um, I don't know, they feel good in your hand. That's all I would say. But yeah, that's kind of where they came out of.
So where obviously people can come to the website to order. Do you do shipping outside of Canada, or is it just Canada right now?
I'll ship outside. I'll ship North America.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, if people are listening from overseas, like reach out to me on Instagram or send me a message, like an email. We could probably figure something out. But yeah, right now it's just North America. I sell in that online store. I sell at a few retailers in the city. If you've been in Sonic Boom, you've seen me there. If you've been in pop music, where we spent Record Store Day, I'm available there. Um, what is it? Royal Cat Records out in Guelph. They've been lovely. That's like my hometown shop. So really great spot to get
Nice.
in there. Part of it is like I I manage a full time job and I manage this on top of it, and so it's like there's this balance of like how big do you want to go? I was talking to somebody at Pop Music the other day, and he's like, "Oh, these are great. Like like you got to get these everywhere." It's like that would be great. Yeah, I'd love to.
That's what I was telling you when you first put out these guys. It's like you got to get these everywhere.
Yeah, it's like, and again, but like, I often talk about this with my partner. It's like, we live in an expensive city to live, and I don't have all the money tucked away to quit my job and be broke for a year to get to kind of go full bore. So, yeah, it is. It's not a sexy thing about kind of starting a side business, but it's a reality. Is that if you want it to be big, you're going to have to at some point say, I'm okay. Screw it. I'm quitting, right? And I'm gonna pursue this full time. And that's a hard decision. A lot of people don't make it that far, and for a lot of people that is also okay, right? I like where it is right now because I can kind of manage my growth on my own. I have a home life, like I have my full time job, and I can kind of fill whatever I can with this as I see fit. If I feel like
Yeah.
I have extra time, sure, I'll put on the salesperson hat. I'll go out to a record shop I haven't been into and I'll try and get them to buy my stuff. Or I'll do an Instagram ad campaign and try and drive traffic to sell. But I'm not at a point where I need that, and I'm not at a point where um, you know, I feel pressure to like I gotta make rent this month. So it's kind of
Yeah.
nice. But that decision is also kind of looming.
Now, I just wanted. Hold on. I'm gonna be right back. I just wanted to grab something here.
Yeah, yeah.
I was I was looking around the room trying to figure out where it was, and then I looked over there and I found it.
Yes, the tabletop. That's the old one. So when I was telling you the story about how I kind of went home and made like prototype products, that was one of them that never
Little
really made
dusty.
it off the. It was honestly like Home Depot cabinet pulls and like feet. The idea is that records would fit vertically. What I realized with that concept is that I know obviously everybody knows this. It's like common sense, but records are different thicknesses, and you can't just have like one standard set groove. Which is why the solos having that 5-degree angle is so important. So I don't know if it makes any sense to you. I got one here. I'll hold it up. But essentially, these solos are cut with a 5-degree angle. That's done
Yep.
intentionally. Basically, if you have thinner like single sleeve records.
Well,
Um,
you even had that on the old ones too, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah. It's
the
intentional
same.
because you want to run that thin sleeve actually against the angle. Um, but if you have something that's thicker, double gatefold records, all you have to do is flip the thing around and run it with the angle, and you'll be able to fit them. The majority of records, obviously, there's going to be outliers, but that design kind of came into play because there was like, sure, you can sell somebody a display piece, but if it can only display half of their records, what's the point? No one's going to buy it because
Well, yeah, this had one, two,
they get
four,
an
six,
8.
eight slots, so it didn't really hold all that much considering how much real estate
Yeah, listen,
covers.
early days, my friend, 10 years ago.
Beautiful piece, but like,
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
maybe
It's come a
like,
long way.
oh,
I'm
this
really
is,
happy I was.
this is the next 8 albums that I'm gonna play. Maybe.
Yeah, it's come a long way. Honestly, I'm really excited to have been able to kind of like get back to it and get creative about it. It's been cool to like learn about these different wood species and like work with them. Um, and understand kind of how, because they're all different. They all have different densities. They all have different ways that they take finishes, they take sanding. So like that's been kind of cool. Um, it's been like, I don't know, it's a bit of an educational thing for me too, to kind of learn about how to work with different hardwoods from around the world, which is kind of fun.
So if I see at the bottom of the website here, there is um a button for custom, so people could do custom orders with you.
Yeah, for
What
sure.
kind of
Yeah.
what kind of customizations are you
Yeah.
like?
So I pride myself on being a pretty like creative individual. Coming up with solutions to problems is kind of how any entrepreneur should live. But I understand that um, a lot of record collectors have their own niche spaces, their own like creative wants and needs from the pieces that they're gonna use to display their records, and that's cool. I can do my best to kind of provide like more mass produced like product lines where these are the pieces and this is how it is. But like the reality is that's not going to be for everyone. So I've done some built-ins here and there, like so built-in floating shelves. That's an easy thing for me. I've done some. I'm quoting now some like just extended wallflowers. So your record rail, but times three length.
Mhm.
Again, I'm buying all this like hardwood anyways. So like coming up with again creative ways to use that is really cool for me. It lets me exercise my a bit of my like creative brain. Whereas when you get into like the shop and cranking out like 100 of these solos, it gets a little like not say mind numbing, but it's a little like you become an assembly line, right? You're like, okay,
Yeah.
now this is done. Now on to next step. Now we do 100 of these this way. Okay, great. Now it's done. Now we do the next step. And it's just, you do become a little bit monotonous. So like exercising my creative space comes in way of obviously coming up with new product lines, but also comes in way of taking on those custom projects and making pieces that are like 100% unique to you and your needs and wants from the piece that's going to display or showcase or store your collection. So yeah,
And
if
then
you want to do custom stuff, you can always reach out. And no ideas too crazy.
if there's a store that's seeing this and they want to do a retail partnership with you, is there kind of like minimums or anything like that or it's basically, or do they also have to be in Toronto, or let's say like a shop in Vancouver wants to do like
Yeah,
a
sure.
retail partnership?
No, there's very little limitations. Um, I have two platforms for retail partnership, one of which is wholesale. You buy the products at a wholesale price and you sell them at your own leisure. There'll be like price minimums for that. Essentially, you can't sell things cheaper than what I sell them for. And then there's consignment. I'll do consignment. As long as the retail partner is like good at keeping up with their sales data. But basically, consignment is I will give you these products for free. You can sell them at your leisure, and once a month, I'm going to check in on you, and you're going to pay me a percentage of your sales, basically. So, consignment is less profitable for a business, but it means that you don't have to. I understand it can be hard time. It can be a hard time to be a record owner or a record store owner.
Hmm.
So like that, like low to no cost barrier entry is really cool. Um, I won't do consignment on stores too far outside the GTA only because I can't really go and visit and hold them accountable. But for
Yeah.
wholesale orders, I will definitely go. I'll ship Canada wide. I'll ship North America wide. I'd love to get into shops outside of the GTA if I can, if it's easy. I have a pretty good shipping partner. You know, the the purchaser will pay the shipping, and that's about it. Just like anything else.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so where do you see this going in the future? Do you already have ideas for new products kind of brewing in your head?
Yeah.
Are you just
So as I mentioned, there will be a large format piece coming within the month. I would say. I mean, don't hold me to it. I leave a bit. I lead a busy life, but yeah, something larger format, which will require me expanding into a storage space. So that's next on the list: is get a place to get all this stuff out of my house and and live when I'm not moving it to places. But so yeah, something larger format, something that's going to compete with. There's a number of American companies that are doing like larger format. So something in that set in that scale, capable again at minimum of holding 150 records, to larger versions of it that could hold up to 400 or 500 pieces.
wow?
It'll all be how you configure it.
Hmm.
These pieces will have the cool. You're seeing it now a lot. The garage door display. I don't know
Okay.
where it tucks away and it flips down and it has a record leaned up in it. Yeah, I can do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's really cool and exciting for that. That'll be coming down the line. I'd like to get the crates back. I feel like I gave up on that too soon.
yeah.
But yeah, that is that. Taking on whatever retail partnerships I can get in the time that I have to get them. And then yeah, like just trying to cruise through summer. It's a wild time. I work in the beer industry, so it's like our busy time of the year. Um, but yeah, that's about it. I don't know. Then we'll see where that leaves me in the fall winter.
Awesome. Nick, thanks for being on the show. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, for sure. Instagram at VinylBLOX, VinylBLOXTO. And then email is vinylbloxto, same spelling, at gmail.com. And then website is vinylbloxto.com. Everything's BLOX, so not BLOCK. So yeah, reach out. I'd love to connect. Again, I'm a creative person, so any cool, fun ideas that you got is definitely things I want to hear. So,
Awesome. And if you guys enjoyed this episode with Nick or any other of the podcast episodes that we've been putting out, please like and subscribe to the channel. Maybe share this video with a friend of yours, and we will see you next time. Bye.
bye bye.